Episode 1, The Signal.
My name is Alex. If you're hearing this, it means I'm already deeper in the system than I ever wanted to be. It started with a single, untraceable signal, an echo in the network that no one else noticed. But I did. And now, every step I take feels like walking on a wire stretched over a digital abyss. There's no turning back. Not anymore. I can't tell you everything right now. There are things I'm still trying to understand myself. What I do know is this: the signal wasn't random. It was a message. A warning. And if I don't figure out who sent it, and why, I won't just lose this fight, I'll lose everything. But time is running out, and the deeper I go, the more I realize that some secrets are better left buried. Or are they? It all began 3 nights ago. I was working late, alone in my apartment, when my computer screen flickered. At first, I thought it was a glitch, something normal. But then the screen went black, and a single line of text appeared. Do you want to see the truth? I froze. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, unsure whether to respond or shut everything down. Curiosity won. I typed back, "Who is this?" No reply. Instead, my entire network went silent. No internet, no phone signal, nothing. Then, a new message appeared, this time on my phone. You're already part of it. That's when I realized I was no longer just a bystander. The system had chosen me. And whatever game was starting, it was one I couldn't afford to lose. The silence that followed was deafening. No notifications, no background hum of machines, just an eerie stillness that pressed against my eardrums. I tried to reboot everything, but the blackout wasn't accidental. It was deliberate. Someone, or something, was controlling the flow of information around me. I grabbed my old radio scanner from the shelf, a relic from my college days when I was obsessed with signals and frequencies. Maybe, just maybe, I could catch a trace of that mysterious message. I tuned through static, white noise, and fragmented transmissions until a faint, rhythmic pulse emerged. It wasn't random. It was a pattern. A code. Decoding it took hours, but the message was clear: find the source before it finds you. My heart pounded. Who was behind this? A hacker? A government agency? Or something else entirely? I looked around my apartment, suddenly feeling exposed. The walls seemed to close in, the shadows lengthening as if they were watching me. I wasn't just connected to the network, I was trapped inside it. I knew I had to move fast. But where do you run when the enemy is invisible, and every device around you could be a spy? I packed a small bag, laptop, charger, a few essentials, and prepared to leave. But before I could step out, my phone buzzed again. A new message, this time with a location. Midnight. Warehouse 17. Come alone. No sender ID. No explanation. Just a command. I hesitated. It could be a trap. But ignoring it wasn't an option either. If I wanted answers, I had to take the risk. As I locked the door behind me, I felt the weight of the unknown pressing down. The signal had pulled me in, and there was no turning back. The streets were unusually quiet as I made my way to Warehouse 17. The city lights flickered intermittently, casting long shadows that danced like ghosts on the cracked pavement. My breath formed small clouds in the cold night air, each step echoing louder than it should. I kept my phone in my pocket, its screen dark, but the message burned in my mind. Who was waiting for me there? And why choose such a desolate place? As I approached the warehouse, a faint hum vibrated through the air like the low pulse of a machine breathing in the dark. The heavy metal door was slightly ajar, creaking softly with the wind. I paused, heart racing, and noticed something high on the ground near the entrance, a small, black USB drive, half buried in the dirt. No markings. No explanation. Instinct told me to pick it up. Maybe it was a clue. Or maybe it was bait. I slipped it into my pocket and stepped inside. The darkness swallowed me whole. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the faint scent of rust. My footsteps echoed against the concrete floor, each one a reminder that I was alone, at least, that's what I told myself. The warehouse was a cavern of shadows, broken only by slivers of moonlight filtering through cracked windows high above. I pulled out my phone, but there was still no signal. No way to call for help if things went wrong. The silence pressed in, broken only by the distant drip of water somewhere deep inside. Then, a soft glow caught my eye, a flickering screen on an old terminal against the far wall. Someone had been here recently. Or maybe they were still here. I moved cautiously, every sense on high alert. As I approached, the screen flashed a single word. "Welcome, Alex." A chill ran down my spine. How did they know my name? And more importantly, what did they want from me? Before I could react, the terminal beeped again, displaying a new message. "You've taken the first step. Now, prove you're ready." Suddenly, the screen went black. The warehouse plunged into complete darkness. I fumbled for my phone's flashlight, heart pounding. Somewhere in the shadows, I heard a faint click like a lock snapping shut. I wasn't just inside the system anymore. I was inside their game. The beam from my phone's flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing rows of empty crates and forgotten machinery. But the sound, the soft click of a lock, still echoed in my ears. I wasn't alone. Someone, or something, was watching. I took a deep breath, forcing my racing heart to steady. The message on the screen was a challenge. A test. But what kind of test? And who was behind it? Then, from the shadows, a faint voice whispered, barely audible but unmistakably real. "Alex, if you want to get out, you'll have to play." The voice was distorted, mechanical, yet oddly familiar. It sent a shiver down my spine. I scanned the room, trying to locate the source, but all I saw were shadows. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. A new message appeared. "Look under the crate." I hesitated, then crouched down. Beneath the crate was a small, sleek device no bigger than a deck of cards. It pulsed with a soft blue light. I picked it up, feeling its weight in my hand. This was no ordinary gadget. It was a key. Or maybe a trap. The voice spoke again, closer this time. "Your move, Alex." As I held the glowing device, a sudden flash of memory hit me. Years ago, during my early days as a coder, I had stumbled upon a secret project buried deep within a company's archives. A project codenamed Echo. It was supposed to be abandoned, erased from all records. But what if this device was connected to it? The thought sent a jolt through me. Maybe this wasn't just a random trap. Maybe someone wanted me to find this. Someone who knew about Echo and about me. I glanced around again, heart pounding. The warehouse felt less like a place and more like a puzzle, each shadow hiding a piece I needed to solve. Then, my phone buzzed once more. A new message, this time with a single line. "Trust no one. Not even yourself." The words echoed in my mind as I realized the game was bigger than I imagined. And the deeper I went, the more I risked losing not just my freedom but my very identity. The warning echoed in my mind, "Trust no one. Not even yourself." It felt like a riddle wrapped in a threat. How could I not trust myself? Was I already compromised? I slipped the glowing device into my jacket pocket and moved cautiously toward the exit. But as I reached the door, a sudden flicker of movement caught my eye, a shadow darting just beyond the broken windows. I froze. Was it a person? Or something else? Before I could react, my phone buzzed again. This time, a new message appeared. "Look behind you." I spun around, flashlight trembling in my hand. Nothing but darkness stared back. Then, a soft click, this time from the ceiling. A panel slid open, and a small drone dropped silently into the room, its red eye glowing ominously. The game had just changed. The drone hovered silently, its red eye scanning the room, locking onto me. I barely had time to react before it zipped forward, a tiny but sharp blade extending from its underside. I ducked instinctively, heart pounding. The blade sliced through the air where my head had been moments before. This wasn't just a game anymore, it was a hunt. I scrambled backward, knocking over a stack of crates. The noise echoed through the warehouse, but the drone didn't hesitate. It pursued relentlessly, weaving through the shadows with mechanical precision. I needed a plan. My eyes darted around, searching for anything I could use. Then I spotted it, a control panel on the wall, wires exposed and blinking erratically. If I could reach it, maybe I could hack the drone or shut down the system controlling it. With no time to lose, I sprinted toward the panel, dodging the drone's swift attacks. My fingers flew over the buttons and wires, trying to override the controls. The drone buzzed closer, its blade poised for another strike. Then, with a final keystroke, the panel sparked and the drone froze midair, its red eye dimming. I exhaled sharply, adrenaline still coursing through my veins. But as I turned to leave, my phone lit up again. Well done, Alex. But this is only the beginning. I pocketed my phone, the weight of that final message settling heavily on my chest. This is only the beginning. The words echoed like a promise and a threat. I glanced around the warehouse one last time. The silence had returned, but it felt different now, charged, expectant. Whatever game I'd been pulled into, it was far from over. Stepping outside, the cold night air hit me like a shock. The city was still asleep, unaware of the invisible war unfolding in its shadows. I knew I couldn't stay here. Not with whoever or whatever watching my every move. As I walked away from Warehouse 17, the USB drive in my pocket seemed heavier than before. It wasn't just a device. It was a key. A puzzle piece. And maybe, just maybe, the only way out. But to unlock its secrets, I have to dive deeper into the system. Deeper than I ever imagined. And that meant facing the unknown.
Episode 2, The Key.
They say curiosity killed the cat. But what they don't tell you is that sometimes, curiosity is the only thing that keeps you alive. The USB drive in my pocket wasn't just a piece of hardware, it was a door. A door to secrets I wasn't sure I wanted to uncover. Yet, here I was, standing at the edge of that door, knowing that once I stepped through, there was no turning back. Because some truths don't just change your world, they shatter it. The moment I got back to my apartment, I locked the door behind me and sat down at my desk. The USB drive gleamed under the dim light, almost as if it was alive, pulsing with a quiet energy. I hesitated, fingers hovering over the port. What if this was a trap? What if plugging it in unleashed something I couldn't control? But the need for answers outweighed my fear. I connected the drive. The screen flickered, and a file appeared, unnamed, encrypted, but impossible to ignore. As I worked to decrypt it, a flood of images and data poured in, fragments of code, schematics, and cryptic messages. Among them, one phrase stood out. Project Echo, the system is watching. My mind raced. Echo. The secret project I had stumbled upon years ago. Was this the same? Was someone trying to warn me? Or lure me deeper? Suddenly, my computer screen went black. Then, a new message appeared, typed out letter by letter. You've opened the door. Now, step inside. The room seemed to close in around me. The line between reality and the digital world blurred. And I realized this was no longer just a fight for information. It was a fight for survival. My fingers trembled as I stared at the blinking cursor, waiting for the next command. The room felt colder, the shadows longer. I wasn't just connected to the system anymore, I was becoming part of it. Then, a new file appeared on the screen, a video. The grainy footage showed a figure standing in a dimly lit room, their face obscured by shadows. The figure spoke, voice distorted but urgent. Alex, if you're seeing this, it means you've come too far to turn back. Project Echo is more than a program, it's a surveillance network, a digital prison built to control minds and rewrite reality. They're watching you. They've been watching you. The video cut out abruptly, leaving me with a single question burning in my mind. Who are they? Before I could process it, my phone buzzed again. Trust no one. Not even yourself. The same message as before. But this time, it felt like a warning and a challenge. I knew one thing for sure: the deeper I went, the more dangerous it became. And the only way out was through. The warning echoed again in my mind: trust no one. Not even yourself. But what did that even mean? Was I being manipulated? Was my own mind turning against me? I glanced at the USB drive, its soft blue glow pulsing steadily. Then, I remembered the small drone from the warehouse, the one that had hunted me relentlessly before I managed to disable it. What if it wasn't just a machine, but a part of something bigger? A network of watchers, silently tracking every move. I decided to dig deeper into the files on the drive. Hidden beneath layers of encryption, I found something unexpected: a fragment of code that matched the pattern of the signal I had first detected, the untraceable echo that started all this. It was a digital fingerprint, a signature left by someone or something that had been inside the system long before I arrived. And then, a name appeared in the metadata: Mara. Who was Mara? An ally? An enemy? Or someone caught in the same web? Before I could investigate further, my phone buzzed again. Find Mara. She holds the key. The game was changing. The pieces were moving. And now, I had a new lead, a new hope. But with every answer, the questions only grew darker. The name Mara echoed in my mind like a lifeline thrown into the chaos. Who was she? Why did she hold the key? And most importantly, could I trust her? I scoured the decrypted files for any clue: emails, logs, anything that could point me in her direction. Buried deep in a hidden folder, I found a series of encrypted messages exchanged between Mara and an unknown contact. The messages hinted at a secret meeting place, a forgotten part of the city where the old tech hubs once thrived. I grabbed my coat and the USB drive, knowing this was my next move. The city outside was waking up, oblivious to the invisible war unfolding beneath its surface. As I stepped into the morning light, a new message arrived on my phone. Time is running out, Alex. Find Mara before they do. The urgency was clear. Whoever was behind this wasn't just watching, they were hunting. With every step, the line between ally and enemy blurred. But one thing was certain: to survive, I had to find Mara. And fast. The name Mara echoed in my mind like a lifeline thrown into the chaos. Who was she? Why did she hold the key? And most importantly, could I trust her? I scoured the decrypted files for any clue: emails, logs, anything that could point me in her direction. Buried deep in a hidden folder, I found a series of encrypted messages exchanged between Mara and an unknown contact. The messages hinted at a secret meeting place, a forgotten part of the city where the old tech hubs once thrived. The place was called the Grid, an underground network of abandoned data centers and server farms, long since decommissioned but rumored to be a haven for hackers, whistleblowers, and those who wanted to disappear from the digital eye. I grabbed my coat and the USB drive, knowing this was my next move. The city outside was waking up, oblivious to the invisible war unfolding beneath its surface. As I stepped into the morning light, a new message arrived on my phone. Time is running out, Alex. Find Mara before they do. The urgency was clear. Whoever was behind this wasn't just watching, they were hunting. Navigating through the city's maze of streets, I felt the weight of unseen eyes tracking me. Every glance from a passerby, every flicker of a security camera felt like a threat. The system was vast, and I was just a small piece in its game. When I finally reached the outskirts of the Grid, the atmosphere shifted. Neon signs flickered erratically, and the hum of old servers echoed faintly through cracked walls. This was a place forgotten by most, but alive with secrets. I moved cautiously, scanning for any sign of Mara. Then, from the shadows, a figure emerged, slim, with sharp eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness. "You're Alex," she said, voice low but steady. "I've been expecting you." Relief and suspicion warred inside me. Could this be the ally I needed? Or another trap? Before I could answer, her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, her expression darkening. "They're closer than we thought," she said. "We don't have much time." Together, We slipped deeper into the labyrinth of the grid, knowing that every step forward was a step into the unknown.
Episode 3, Into the Grid.
The deeper you go, the darker it gets. I thought I understood the rules until Mara showed me how little I really knew. The grid wasn't just a place, it was a living, breathing entity, a maze of secrets and lies woven into the city's forgotten veins. And somewhere in that darkness, the real enemy was waiting. Watching. Waiting for me to make my next move. The grid was nothing like I expected. It wasn't just a collection of abandoned servers and forgotten cables, it was a labyrinth of shadows and whispers, a digital underworld where the rules of reality bent and twisted. Neon lights flickered erratically, casting fractured reflections on cracked concrete walls. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and old electronics, a reminder that this place had once been the heart of a technological empire now reduced to ruins. Mara moved with purpose, her eyes sharp and alert. She knew this place like the back of her hand, navigating through narrow corridors and hidden passages that I would have missed in 100 lifetimes. Every step we took echoed with the weight of secrets long buried. "Why did you reach out to me?" I finally asked, breaking the silence. She glanced at me, her expression unreadable. "Because you're the only one who can stop this. Project Echo isn't just surveillance, it's control. They're rewriting reality, Alex. Manipulating memories, altering perceptions. And if they succeed, no one will be free." A chill ran down my spine. The idea that reality itself could be manipulated was terrifying. But what scared me more was the certainty in her voice. "We don't have much time," she continued. "They know you have the USB. They're coming for you." Suddenly, the distant hum of machinery was interrupted by a sharp, mechanical whirring. Red lights flashed down the corridor ahead. "Drones," Mara whispered. "They've found us." We broke into a run, the sound of metal footsteps closing in behind us. The grid was a maze, but even here, the hunters had their reach. I clutched the USB drive tightly, feeling its pulse sync with my own racing heart. Every corner we turned, every shadow we passed, the tension grew thicker. Then, without warning, the corridor opened into a vast chamber filled with towering servers, their lights blinking in eerie patterns. At the center stood a console, its screen alive with scrolling code. Mara rushed forward, fingers flying over the keys. "This is it," she said. "The core of Project Echo. If we can shut this down, we might have a chance." But as she worked, the room trembled. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed behind us. "They're here," I said, turning just in time to see a squad of armored figures blocking the only exit. No turning back now. The armored figures advanced, their movements precise and unyielding. Mara's fingers didn't falter on the keyboard, but I could see the tension in her jaw. The console screen flickered as lines of code raced by. She was racing against time. "Alex, cover me," she shouted. I scanned the room, searching for anything to use. Among the tangled cables and blinking servers, I spotted a cluster of old power conduits. If I could overload them, maybe I could create a distraction. The figures closed in, their helmets glowing faintly with HUD displays. They weren't just soldiers, they were augmented, connected to the system Mara was trying to shut down. I grabbed a thick cable and yanked it free, exposing the live wires. Sparks flew as I twisted the ends together, and with a surge, the conduits exploded in a shower of electrical arcs. The room plunged into darkness, save for the emergency red lights. The armored figures faltered, their HUDs flickering and glitching. "Now, Mara!" I yelled. She slammed her palm down on the final key. The console emitted a low hum, then a burst of static. The servers began to shut down one by one, their lights dimming. But the blackout was only temporary. The armored figures recovered quickly, their systems rebooting faster than I expected. They advanced again, this time with weapons raised, energy rifles humming ominously. I dove behind a server rack as laser bolts scorched the air where I had just stood. The grid was turning into a battlefield. Mara pulled a small device from her pocket, a compact EMP emitter. "This will buy us a few seconds," she said, activating it. A pulse of electromagnetic energy rippled through the room, frying circuits and plunging the entire chamber into silence. The armored figures collapsed, their systems offline. Breathing hard, Mara grabbed my arm. We have to move. The core is destabilizing, but it won't hold for long. We sprinted toward a narrow maintenance tunnel, the hum of failing servers echoing behind us. As we disappeared into the shadows, I realized this was no longer just a fight for information. It was a war for control over technology, over reality, over our very minds. And the next move was ours. The narrow tunnel was barely wide enough for the two of us to move side by side. The stale air pressed against my lungs as we hurried through the darkness, the distant rumble of collapsing servers fading behind us. Mara's grip on my arm was firm but steady. "We're not safe yet," she said. "They'll send reinforcements. And the system will try to lock us down." I nodded, my mind racing. The USB drive felt heavier than ever in my pocket, a silent reminder of the secrets it held and the danger it brought. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again. I pulled it out, heart pounding. A new message appeared. "You're closer than you think. But the real test is just beginning." No sender. No explanation. Mara glanced over my shoulder, her eyes narrowing. "They're watching every move. We need to find a secure place to decrypt the rest of the files." I scanned the tunnel ahead. A faint light flickered at the end, a service hatch leading to the city's underground maintenance network. We climbed through, emerging into a labyrinth of pipes and cables beneath the streets. The hum of the city above was muffled, distant. "This way," Mara said, leading me through the maze. As we moved deeper, I couldn't shake the feeling that the walls themselves were closing in. The system wasn't just a network of machines, it was a living web, and we were caught in its strands. But I had no choice. To stop Project Echo, to reclaim control, I had to face whatever waited in the shadows. And I had to do it fast. The underground tunnels twisted and turned like the veins of the city itself. The faint drip of water echoed off the concrete walls, mixing with the distant hum of electrical currents. Mara moved ahead with practiced ease, her footsteps silent but purposeful. I kept my senses sharp, every shadow a potential threat. The weight of the USB drive in my pocket was a constant reminder. Inside it lay the key to everything, but also the bait that had drawn us into this deadly game. We reached a small alcove, hidden behind a rusted metal door. Mara punched in a code, and the door hissed open, revealing a cramped room filled with old servers and flickering monitors. "This is our safe haven," she said, setting down her bag. "Here, I can decrypt the rest of the files without interference." I watched as she connected the USB drive to a terminal. Lines of code streamed across the screen, faster than I could follow. Suddenly, the monitors flickered, and a new message appeared. "Welcome back, Mara. And Alex." A chill ran down my spine. Whoever was behind this knew us. They were always one step ahead. Mara's fingers flew over the keyboard, bypassing firewalls and encryption layers. "They've been watching us for a long time," she said grimly. "Project Echo isn't just a program, it's a network of control, surveillance, and manipulation. And it's bigger than we imagined." As the files decrypted, images and documents filled the screens, plans, blueprints, and data on a device called the Nexus. It was described as the core of Project Echo, a machine capable of rewriting digital and neural information on a massive scale. "We have to find the Nexus," Mara said, eyes locked on the screen. "If we destroy it, we can stop this." But before I could respond, the room's lights flickered violently. The hum of the servers grew louder, then cut out completely. The door slammed shut behind us. "We're not alone," Mara whispered. The sudden darkness swallowed the room, leaving only the faint glow of the decrypted screens. My heart pounded in the silence that followed, every breath loud in the confined space. Mara's eyes darted to the door, then to the vents above. "They've locked us in," she said, voice low but steady. "This is a containment protocol. They don't want us spreading what we've found." I moved toward the door, testing the handle. It was sealed tight, electronically locked. No way out, at least, not the obvious one. "Help me find another way," Mara urged, already scanning the room for an alternate exit. I noticed a small panel near the floor, partially hidden behind a server rack. Kneeling, I pried it open, revealing a tangle of wires and a faintly blinking red light. "Power's been cut to the main door," I said. "But this looks like an emergency override." Mara joined me, pulling out a multi-tool from her bag. Together, we worked quickly, reconnecting circuits and bypassing security locks. Suddenly, the monitors flickered back to life, displaying a countdown timer: 5 minutes. "They're giving us a deadline," Mara said grimly. "If we don't get out before it hits 0, this place will be sealed permanently." The tension was suffocating. Every second counted. With a final click, the override panel beeped, and the door hissed open just as the timer hit 1 minute. We didn't hesitate. Sprinting through the tunnels, the distant sound of alarms echoed behind us. As we emerged back into the maze of underground passages, I realized the fight was far from over. Project Echo was closing in, and the real battle was just beginning. We burst out of the cramped server room just as the countdown hit 0. The echo of alarms faded behind us, but a new unease settled in my chest. Mara glanced at me, her eyes sharp. "There's something else," she said quietly. "A name I found buried deep in the files, the Catalyst. It's connected to the Nexus, but no one knows exactly what it is, yet." The words hung in the air, heavy with promise and threat. For now, it was just a whisper in the dark. But soon, it would become the key to everything. The tunnel stretched endlessly ahead, a twisting maze of concrete and steel. Every step echoed with uncertainty, every shadow seemed to watch. Mara led the way with unwavering focus, but I could see the tension in her eyes. This was no ordinary mission. We needed a plan. The files we decrypted hinted at a location deep within the city, a hidden facility where the heart of Project Echo pulsed. If we could reach it, maybe we could finally put an end to the nightmare. But the system was relentless. Our every move felt anticipated, as if the very walls were closing in. Suddenly, a faint vibration hummed through my pocket. I pulled out my phone. No new messages, no calls. Just a subtle, almost imperceptible signal. Mara noticed it too. "They're tracking us," she said grimly. "We have to move faster." We picked up the pace, navigating through service corridors and forgotten subway tunnels. The city above was oblivious, but down here, the war was real. As we neared the coordinates from the files, the air grew colder, heavier. The hum of machinery grew louder, a steady pulse that seemed to sync with my heartbeat. Ahead, a massive steel door loomed, covered in warning signs and biometric locks. "This is it," Mara whispered. "The core." I took a deep breath, knowing that whatever awaited behind the door could change everything.
Episode 4, The Core.
The door before us wasn't just steel and circuits, it was a threshold. Beyond it lay the heart of Project Echo, a place where reality blurred and control was absolute. Every instinct screamed to turn back, but there was no choice. To fight the system, I had to step inside its very core. And hope I didn't lose myself in the process. The biometric scanner glowed faintly as Mara placed her hand on the panel. A soft beep confirmed access, and the massive door slid open with a grinding roar. A rush of cold, sterile air spilled out, carrying the scent of metal and something else, something faintly electric, like the charge before a storm. Inside, the room was vast, filled with towering machines and endless rows of blinking lights. Cables snaked across the floor like living veins, pulsing with energy. At the center stood a colossal device, its surface covered in intricate circuits and glowing panels, a machine that seemed almost alive. "This is the Nexus," Mara said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The heart of Project Echo." I stepped closer, feeling the hum of power vibrating through the floor. The Nexus wasn't just a machine, it was a command center, a digital brain capable of rewriting data and memories on a scale I couldn't fully grasp. Suddenly, the room shifted. Screens flickered to life, displaying streams of code and images, faces, places, moments frozen in time. It was as if the Nexus was watching, analyzing, learning. A voice echoed through hidden speakers, cold and mechanical. "Welcome, Alex. Mara. You've come far, but this is where the game ends." The lights dimmed, and the machines around us began to whir louder, energy crackling in the air. Mara's eyes met mine. We have to shut it down. Now! I nodded, heart pounding. The fight wasn't just for control of the system anymore, it was for our very minds. Mara moved swiftly to the control panel, her fingers flying over the keys as she tried to override the Nexus's core functions. The room vibrated with energy, the hum growing louder, almost deafening. I scanned the area, searching for anything that could help. The cables pulsed with power, and I realized if I could sever the main conduits, it might trigger a shutdown. But as I reached for a thick cable, the floor beneath us shifted. Panels slid open, revealing hidden compartments filled with automated defense drones, their red eyes glowing ominously. "Looks like they've anticipated this," Mara said grimly. The drones activated, buzzing to life and swarming toward us with lethal precision. I grabbed a nearby metal rod, swinging it to disable the first drone. Sparks flew as it crashed to the ground, but more were coming. Mara shouted, "Cover me! I'm almost through the firewall." The battle was frantic. I dodged laser blasts and shattered drones, every second counting. The Nexus pulsed wildly, as if fighting for its survival. Finally, Mara's fingers hit the final sequence. The machines around us shuddered, lights flickering as the Nexus began to power down. But just as relief started to wash over me, the voice returned, this time distorted, desperate. "You think this ends here? The system is eternal." The room plunged into darkness, then emergency lights flickered on, casting eerie shadows. We had won the battle, but the war was far from over. The emergency lights cast long, flickering shadows as Mara and I caught our breath. The Nexus was silent now, its ominous glow faded to a dull hum. For a moment, the oppressive weight in the room lifted, replaced by a fragile hope. But the voice's final words echoed in my mind, "The system is eternal." It was a warning and a promise. Mara turned to me, her face grim. Shutting down the Nexus was just the beginning. There's something else, something deeper. We need to prepare. I nodded, feeling the gravity of what lay ahead. The files hinted at a hidden layer beneath the system, a core so secret that even the Nexus was just a facade. As we exited the chamber, my phone buzzed again. A new message appeared. "You've delayed the inevitable. But the real test awaits." No sender. No clue. The city above was waking, unaware of the battle fought beneath its streets. But I knew this was far from over. And somewhere, in the shadows, the next move was already being made. As we made our way out of the chamber, a faint, almost imperceptible signal pulsed through the air, different from anything we'd encountered before. Mara's eyes narrowed. "There's something else," she whispered. "Something buried deeper than the Nexus." A name came up in the files. The Catalyst. We don't know what it is yet, but it's connected to everything. Before I could ask more, the signal faded, swallowed by the hum of the city above. We pushed forward, the weight of the unknown pressing down on us. The real fight was just beginning. The corridor outside the chamber was cold and silent, a stark contrast to the chaos we'd just escaped. Mara's face was set, determined but shadowed with worry. "We've bought ourselves some time," she said quietly. "But the system adapts. It learns. We can't let our guard down." I nodded, feeling the weight of every step we took away from the Nexus. The files we decrypted hinted at layers beneath layers, hidden protocols, backup systems, fail-safes designed to keep the project alive no matter what. As we moved through the underground passages, the faint glow of emergency lights flickered overhead. Somewhere in the distance, the faint hum of machinery persisted, a reminder that the heart of the system still beat. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. I pulled it out, expecting another cryptic message. Instead, a map appeared, an unmarked location deep within the city's industrial district. Mara's eyes met mine. "Looks like our next destination." The city above was waking, unaware of the invisible war raging beneath its streets. But for us, the real battle was just beginning. The map led us through winding streets and forgotten alleys, places where the city's pulse slowed and shadows grew long. The industrial district was a maze of rusted factories and silent warehouses, relics of a bygone era now swallowed by time. Mara moved with purpose, her eyes scanning every corner, every flicker of movement. I followed closely, the USB drive still burning a hole in my pocket, a constant reminder of the secrets we carried. We stopped in front of a nondescript building, its facade cracked and faded. No signs, no markings, just a heavy steel door with a keypad. Mara pulled out a small device, a sleek black box with blinking lights. She connected it to the keypad, and after a tense moment, the door clicked open. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of oil and metal. Rows of servers hummed softly, their lights casting eerie patterns on the walls. This place, Mara said, is a secondary hub. A backup node for the system. If we can access it, we might find a way to cripple the network from the inside. I nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. Every step we took was deeper into the heart of the enemy's domain. As we set to work, the screens flickered, and a new message appeared. You're closer than you think. But the system never forgets. The room seemed to close in around us, the shadows growing darker. The fight was far from over. The servers hummed steadily as Mara and I worked side by side, fingers flying over keyboards, bypassing firewalls, peeling back layers of encryption. Every line of code we uncovered felt like peeling back a veil, revealing not just data, but the very architecture of control that had ensnared the city. Yet, beneath the surface of this digital fortress, something else lurked. A force, a mechanism, a spark, something ancient and powerful, designed not just to observe or manipulate, but to ignite change on a scale beyond comprehension. Mara paused, her eyes scanning a fragment of code that shimmered like a ghost in the system. This, she whispered, is the core's secret. A hidden engine, capable of triggering a cascade and irreversible chain reaction that could reshape everything. It's not just a program. It's a catalyst. I swallowed hard, the weight of her words sinking in. This was no ordinary threat. It was a force that could unravel the very fabric of reality as we knew it. The room seemed to grow colder, the hum of the machines deepening into a low, resonant pulse like the heartbeat of something awakening. We have to find it, Mara said, voice steady but urgent. Before it activates. Before the system uses it to rewrite everything. I nodded, feeling the gravity of the path ahead. The fight was no longer just about survival or control, it was about stopping a force that could change the world forever. As we prepared to move deeper into the labyrinth, my phone buzzed one last time. A message appeared on the screen, stark and simple. The next step awaits. But beware, the spark can both create and destroy. The city above continued its restless hum, unaware of the storm gathering beneath its streets. And somewhere, hidden in the shadows of the system, the true power was waiting to be unleashed.
Episode 5, The Spark.
Every revolution begins with a spark, small, almost invisible, yet capable of igniting a blaze that consumes everything in its path. We had faced the system's heart and survived, but now the real challenge loomed ahead. Something deeper, more dangerous, was stirring beneath the surface. A force that could either save us or destroy everything we fought for. And to confront it, we had to unravel secrets older and darker than we ever imagined. The city's underground maze had become our battleground, a place where every shadow whispered secrets and every step could be our last. Mara and I moved cautiously, the weight of what lay ahead pressing heavily on us. The files we'd uncovered hinted at something ancient, an engine buried deep within the system, capable of reshaping reality itself. We didn't know its name yet, but its presence was undeniable. It was a force that could ignite change or unleash destruction, a spark waiting to become a wildfire. As we navigated through forgotten tunnels and abandoned control rooms, the air grew thick with tension. The hum of dormant machines stirred faintly, as if sensing our approach. Suddenly, the silence shattered. Alarms blared, red lights flashing violently. The system had detected us. "Get ready," Mara whispered, her eyes sharp. "They're not going to let us reach the core without a fight." From the shadows, automated sentinels emerged, sleek, deadly machines designed to protect the system's deepest secrets. Their movements were swift, precise, and merciless. The battle was fierce. I dodged laser blasts and shattered debris, while Mara hacked into the control panels, trying to disable the sentinels. Every second counted. Amid the chaos, a new message flashed on my phone. The spark is closer than you think. But beware, the flame can consume even its keeper. The words sent a chill down my spine. Whoever sent this knew more than they let on. As the last sentinel fell, Mara and I exchanged a grim look. The path ahead was clear, but the cost of what awaited was unknown. We pressed forward, deeper into the heart of the system, ready to face the spark that could change everything. As we rounded a corner, the tunnel opened into a vast chamber bathed in an eerie, pulsating light. At its center stood a towering structure, an intricate web of circuits and glowing cores, alive with energy. Mara's breath caught. "This is it," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "The catalyst." I stared, trying to grasp the enormity of what lay before us. The catalyst wasn't just a machine, it was the system's beating heart, the engine designed to ignite the chain reaction that could rewrite reality itself. The air hummed with power, the very ground vibrating beneath our feet. Panels flickered, displaying streams of data that seemed to pulse in rhythm with the structure's glow. Mara stepped forward, her fingers tracing the surface. "It's more than we imagined. The catalyst can manipulate not just data, but memories, perceptions, even time. If it activates fully, nothing will ever be the same." A sudden alarm blared, jolting us back to the present. Automated defenses sprang to life, and the chamber filled with the mechanical roar of sentinels. "We have to disable it," Mara said urgently. "Before it's too late." I nodded, heart pounding. The fight wasn't just for control anymore, it was for the very fabric of reality. As we moved to engage the defenses and shut down the catalyst, I realized this was the moment that would define everything. The spark that could either save us or consume us all. The sentinels surged forward, their metallic bodies gleaming under the pulsating light of the catalyst. Laser beams sliced through the air, forcing Mara and me to dive for cover behind a cluster of exposed cables. Mara's fingers flew over her portable console, attempting to hack into the catalyst's control systems. "I'm trying to override the core protocols, but it's like fighting a living firewall," she muttered, sweat beading on her forehead. I gripped a heavy metal pipe, ready to defend her. Every sentinel that came close was met with a fierce swing, sparks flying as metal clashed against metal. "Almost there," Mara said, her voice tense but determined. "Just a few more seconds." The catalyst's glow intensified, casting long shadows that danced like specters on the chamber walls. The air crackled with energy, and I could feel the weight of its power pressing down on us. Suddenly, the ground trembled. A deep, resonant pulse radiated from the catalyst, shaking the very foundation of the chamber. "We don't have much time," Mara shouted. With a final keystroke, the console emitted a high-pitched beep. The glowing cores of the catalyst began to dim, their rhythmic pulse slowing. The sentinels faltered, their movements becoming sluggish. But just as relief started to wash over me, a voice echoed through the chamber, cold, mechanical, and filled with menace. "You may have delayed the inevitable, but the spark cannot be extinguished." The catalyst flared one last time, sending a shockwave that threw us both to the ground. As the dust settled, I knew this was far from over. The true battle for control and survival was only beginning. As the dust settled and the echoes of the shockwave faded, Mara and I caught our breath. The catalyst's glow had dimmed, but questions still burned in my mind. Who sent those messages? The ones that led me here? I asked, voice low. Mara hesitated, then pulled up a hidden file from the decrypted data. "There's a trace," she said. "A signal embedded deep within the network, an encrypted beacon." She played the recording. The voice was distorted but unmistakable, calm, deliberate. "Alex, if you're hearing this, it means you've taken the first step. I'm the one who sent the signal. I'm the one who's been watching, waiting for the right moment." My heart skipped. "Who are you?" The file revealed a name, one I hadn't expected. "Evelyn," Mara said softly. "A former engineer on Project Echo. She disappeared years ago, presumed dead. But it seems she's been working from the shadows, trying to stop the system from within." The pieces clicked. Evelyn had been the spark, the hidden ally guiding me through the maze, sending warnings, and nudging me toward the truth. "She's the reason we're still standing," Mara said. "And the reason we might still have a chance." For the first time, hope flickered in the darkness. The fight was far from over, but we weren't alone. Evelyn's voice lingered in the room, a ghost from the past guiding us through the present. Mara's fingers danced over the keyboard, pulling up more files, fragments of Evelyn's work, hidden deep within the system's code. "She wasn't just an engineer," Mara explained. "She was a rebel. She embedded backdoors, fail-safes, and warnings throughout Project Echo. She knew the system's true potential and its dangers." I leaned closer to the screen, absorbing the data. Evelyn's notes spoke of a balance, a delicate line between control and chaos. The catalyst was the fulcrum, capable of tipping the scales either way. Suddenly, a new alert flashed: a breach in the system, closer than we thought. "They're coming," Mara said, eyes sharp. "We need to move. Evelyn's legacy is our only hope now." As we prepared to leave, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The fight was no longer just about survival, it was about honoring the spark that had ignited this rebellion. And with Evelyn's guidance, maybe we could finally extinguish the darkness. We moved swiftly through the labyrinthine tunnels, the weight of Evelyn's legacy pressing on us. Every step felt charged with urgency, every shadow a potential threat. The system was adapting, learning from our every move. Mara glanced at me, determination burning in her eyes. "Evelyn left us more than just codes and warnings. There's a hidden node, a control point she built to counteract the catalyst. If we can reach it, we might have a chance to shut this down for good." The path ahead was fraught with danger, but hope was a powerful weapon. As we approached the coordinates, the air grew colder, the hum of machinery louder. The hidden node was close. Suddenly, the corridor ahead exploded with light and sound, automated defenses activating, blocking our way. "Get ready," Mara said, drawing her weapon. "This is the final stand." The battle was fierce, every move a fight for survival. But with Evelyn's guidance and our resolve, we pushed forward, inching closer to the node that could change everything. And in that moment, I knew this was more than a fight against a system. It was a fight for the future itself.
Episode 6, The Hidden Node.
In the shadows of the system, where few dared to tread, lay a secret, a hidden node, a beacon of hope and defiance. It was Evelyn's final gift, a chance to undo the chaos the catalyst threatened to unleash. But reaching it meant facing the system's last and deadliest defenses. The line between salvation and destruction had never been thinner. The hidden node was buried deep beneath the city, a fortress of steel and code, shielded by layers of encryption and automated defenses. Mara and I approached cautiously, every step echoing in the cavernous chamber. "This is it," Mara whispered. "Evelyn's last stand." The catalyst's influence pulsed faintly through the walls, a living force, weaving its control into every corner of the system. To stop it, we had to sever its core connection here. As we reached the central console, the room erupted in a storm of light and sound. The catalyst's defenses activated, swarming sentinels, energy barriers, and a relentless digital assault designed to overwhelm. Mara dove into the console, fingers flying over the keys as she fought to breach the catalyst's firewall. I held off the sentinels, every strike fueled by desperation. "Almost there," she shouted. "Just a few more seconds." The catalyst fought back viciously, sending waves of corrupted data and system glitches that threatened to crash our equipment and scramble our minds. But Evelyn's hidden code was our weapon, a backdoor she had painstakingly embedded, a failsafe designed to dismantle the catalyst from within. With a final command, Mara triggered the override. The room trembled as the catalyst's core began to unravel, its pulsating light dimming, its grip loosening. A deafening silence followed. We had done it. The system's hold weakened, the digital chains breaking. But as the dust settled, I realized something profound: the catalyst wasn't just a machine or a program. It was a reflection of control itself, of power wielded without conscience. And though we had won this battle, the war for freedom was far from over. As the catalyst's core dimmed and the system's grip loosened, a soft chime echoed from my pocket. I reached in and pulled out the USB drive, the very device that had set this entire journey in motion. For the first time, I truly understood its purpose. The drive wasn't just a key or a clue. It was a message. A beacon sent by Evelyn herself, designed to find someone who could fight back. Embedded within its encrypted layers was a map, a guide to the hidden node, the backdoor into the system, and the failsafe to dismantle the catalyst. Evelyn had left it for me, knowing that only someone willing to dive deep into the shadows could wield it. Mara looked at me, a faint smile breaking through the exhaustion. It was never just about the system. It was about finding the right spark. I nodded, feeling the weight of the journey behind us and the uncertain road ahead. The catalyst was defeated, but the fight for freedom, for control over our own reality, was just beginning. The silence that followed the catalyst's collapse was almost surreal. The oppressive weight that had hung over the system lifted, replaced by a fragile stillness. Mara and I exchanged a glance, exhausted, but victorious. Yet, beneath that calm, a new awareness settled in. The system was vast, its roots tangled deep within the city's infrastructure and mines. Dismantling the catalyst was a monumental step, but it was only the beginning of a longer journey. I pocketed the USB drive carefully, now more than ever a symbol of hope and responsibility. "We need to make sure this never happens again," Mara said quietly. "Evelyn's work gave us a fighting chance, but the system's remnants will try to rebuild." I nodded. "Then we make sure they don't get the chance." As we ascended from the depths, the city's first light filtered through cracked windows and broken ceilings. Outside, life went on, unaware of the battle fought beneath their feet. But for Mara and me, the fight for freedom had taken on a new meaning. It was no longer just about survival. It was about reclaiming control.
Episode 7, The Reckoning.
The city skyline stretched before us, bathed in the soft glow of dawn. But beneath the surface, the echoes of our battle still resonated. Mara and I stood on the rooftop, the weight of everything we'd faced settling in. There were questions that had haunted me from the start, mysteries left unanswered, shadows lingering in the corners of the story. First, the signal. The untraceable message that pulled me into this nightmare. It wasn't random. It was Evelyn's call for help, a beacon sent through the digital abyss to find someone who could fight back. Then, the USB drive. More than a device, it was a lifeline embedded with Evelyn's secret map and the key to the hidden node. Without it, we never would have found the catalyst's core. The drones, the sentinels, the automated defenses, they were all part of the system's relentless will to survive, but also a test. Evelyn had designed backdoors and traps, knowing that only the worthy could reach the heart. And the catalyst itself, more than a machine, it was a force of control, capable of rewriting reality, manipulating memories, and bending time. Its destruction was necessary, but it also revealed the true nature of the enemy, not just a system, but the desire for absolute power. Finally, Evelyn. The ghost in the machine, the rebel engineer who sacrificed everything to give us a chance. Her legacy was more than code, it was hope. As the sun rose higher, Mara turned to me. "The system is broken, but the fight isn't over. We have to rebuild better, freer." I nodded, feeling the weight of the future pressing down, but also the spark of possibility. "We'll make sure this never happens again," I said. Together, we stepped forward into a new dawn, ready to reclaim control over our world. The rooftop was cold, the morning breeze carrying the distant sounds of a city waking up unaware of the war that had raged beneath its streets. Mara stood beside me, her gaze fixed on the horizon, but her mind clearly elsewhere. I broke the silence. "There's still so much I don't understand. Why me? Why was I the one to receive that signal? The USB drive. How did it end up in my apartment?" Mara sighed, pulling out a small data pad. Evelyn anticipated everything. She knew the system's reach was vast, and that it would try to silence anyone who got too close. The drive was her last hope, a way to find someone with the will and skill to fight back. She tapped the screen, bringing up a series of encrypted logs. "She embedded the drive in your life, Alex. It was never random. You were chosen because of your background, your skills, and your resilience." I nodded slowly, the pieces falling into place. And the drones? The sentinels? They weren't just defenses, they were tests. Exactly, Mara said. Evelyn designed them to weed out anyone who wasn't ready. The system is ruthless, but it's also smart. It learns, adapts. Only those who cannot think it can survive. I looked out over the city again, the weight of the journey pressing down on me. And the catalyst. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a force of control, a way to rewrite reality itself. Mara's eyes darkened. That's the terrifying part. The catalyst could manipulate memories, perceptions, even time. It was designed to make people question what was real. To break their will. I swallowed hard. Destroying it was necessary. But it also showed us the true enemy isn't just a machine, it's the desire for absolute control. Mara nodded. And Evelyn. She was the spark. The rebel who risked everything to give us a chance. Her legacy isn't just in the code she left behind, it's in the hope she inspired. For a moment, we stood in silence, the enormity of it all settling in. Then Mara turned to me, determination blazing in her eyes. The system is broken, but the fight isn't over. We have to rebuild. Not just the network, but trust, freedom, and control over our own lives. I clenched my fists, feeling a new resolve rising. We'll make sure this never happens again. We'll protect the spark. As the sun climbed higher, casting golden light over the city, I realized this was more than an end, it was a beginning. Together, we stepped forward into the unknown, ready to reclaim our world. As the city slowly stirred awake beneath us, I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and clarity. The battles, the betrayals, the revelations, they all led to this fragile moment of calm. But calm was fleeting in a world still healing from the scars of control. Mara broke the silence. You know, Alex, when Evelyn first started this fight, she wasn't just battling a system. She was fighting the fear that people would give up their freedom for comfort, for safety. I looked at her, the weight of those words sinking in. And now it's on us to make sure that fear doesn't win. She nodded. Exactly. The catalyst was the ultimate weapon of control, but it also showed us how fragile reality can be. We have to rebuild not just the system, but the trust people have lost. I thought about the countless faces we'd seen in the data streams, people whose memories had been altered, whose realities had been rewritten. How do we fix that? How do we help people reclaim their own minds? Mara's gaze softened. By being the spark ourselves. By reminding them that control isn't given, it's taken. And that freedom is worth fighting for. A breeze swept across the rooftop, carrying with it the distant sounds of life, children laughing, cars humming, the city breathing. For the first time in a long while, I felt hope. We'll need allies, I said. People who believe in this fight, who are willing to stand up. Mara smiled faintly. Evelyn left us more than codes and backdoors. She left us a network of rebels, hidden in the shadows, waiting for the right moment. I clenched my fists, feeling the fire rekindle inside me. Then let's find them. Let's build something new. As the sun rose higher, bathing the city in light, I knew the road ahead would be long and hard. But for the first time, I wasn't walking it alone. Together, we would reclaim our world. The city was waking up, bathed in the soft golden light of a new day. From the rooftop where Mara and I stood, the sprawling urban landscape stretched endlessly, buildings, streets, and people moving through their lives, unaware of the invisible battles fought beneath their feet. But beneath that surface, something had changed. The system that once sought to control every thought, every memory, had been broken. The catalyst, the heart of that control, was no more. Yet, the fight was far from over. The scars it left behind ran deep, woven into the fabric of the city and its people. I looked at Mara, her eyes reflecting the dawn's light, steady, determined, hopeful. We have a long road ahead, she said softly. Rebuilding trust, restoring freedom, and guarding against the shadows that still linger. I nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. But alongside it was a spark of fierce, unyielding hope. Evelyn's legacy wasn't just in the code she left behind or the battles she fought. It was in the idea that even in the darkest systems, a single spark could ignite a revolution. That spark was alive now, in us, in the rebels hidden across the city, in every person who refused to surrender their mind and soul. We would rebuild. Not just a network, but a community bound by trust, transparency, and the unbreakable will to be free. The road would be difficult. There would be setbacks, betrayals, and sacrifices. But we had learned that control was never absolute, and freedom was always worth fighting for. As the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows behind us, I felt a quiet certainty. This was our world. Our future. And together, we would shape it. The dawn was just beginning.